Hi, this is Dr. Dan Langley, and welcome to another episode of Eye-Opening Discussions. Today, I'm very excited to have a very special guest with us. It's Maurielle Loren. Maurielle and I have been friends for about 4 years, and she's very near and dear to my heart. She's helped me grow and evolve as a physician and friend and just a spiritual being. And so I'm super excited to have her here to talk about all sorts of interesting esoteric ideas. So welcome today, Maurielle.
Dan, thank you so much for having me on your show. I've been dying to be a part of this ever since the idea was originally conceived about a year ago.
Yes.
And we first started talking about this, and now you've brought it to life and you're sharing all of your wisdom and information in the world in some of the ways that we had forecasted for you.
Yeah, I'm very grateful. This podcast studio wouldn't even be possible if it wasn't for an idea that you helped create and kind of push us forward. You have a fantastic business that helps entrepreneurs and business leaders explore their full spiritual potential. And I've been a student of yours for about a year now, and I'm very grateful. And all the things that you had taught and trained us on seem to have come true. And so that guidance has helped propel us into the studio that we are today. So I'm super grateful for you to be here.
I'm really proud of you, and it's exciting to see you tangibly manifest some of the potential attributes that we had originally seen when we did some of our discovery sessions together. Because part of what I do is the personality and energetic profiling systems of people to see what they're built for and what they're designed to do. And one of the big things I remember seeing about you was your ability to be a teacher and a wisdom keeper and somebody who shares crucial information in a conversational and almost entertainment-driven style. And so to see you take some of those original ideas and turn them into this fantastic podcast where lots of people are getting to hear your thoughts and reflections about how they can live a more meaningful and insightful life is really thrilling.
It really was kind of miraculous and fortuitous how our meetings had created the idea that this was even possible. And so, we had met originally on a trip to Egypt, and that was such a spiritually awakening moment. Met so many wonderful people, had my mind cracked open so many different times, learned about the zodiac, and as our friendship matured over the years, I realized that you are absolutely wise beyond your years in a space where there aren't a lot of people there that I could look to in my life to say, I really would like to learn more about this and how I could apply some of these spiritual teachings in a practical way in my life. And so, fortunately, I made the decision to fall under your wing for some tutelage, and I'm very grateful that I spent the last year studying with you.
Well, it's amazing to think that we're all born with certain innate potentials. We all have these, we could say, patterns, codes, maps, right? Or threads we could follow. And the truth is we've all got an instruction book, and all we got to do is learn how to follow the directions. And so when we're exploring the meaning of our life, everybody wonders, why am I here and what am I really meant to do? And sometimes we can feel lost or confused as we're trying to find that answer. But the truth is we do have a map that kind of shows us the way, and all we need is somebody to help us interpret it.
Yeah, isn't that to me that seems so empowering in a reality where sometimes you just feel disempowered, you feel separate from the source, to realize that there is several blueprints that you can then say, wow, I can utilize this, I can learn this philosophy, I can learn this PDF file, this user's manual for my life. And simply by practicing those steps, you can discover what your purpose is. You can then start to make wiser decisions that align with what your true purpose is, and how invigorating and inspiring and exciting that is to simply then say, wow, I'm moving in the direction that I choose, and the universe is conspiring to help support that path.
Mm-hmm. And the power of choice is really our superpower, right? Everything in life comes down to decisions.
Yes.
And so when we understand that our willpower and how we exercise it is one of the greatest determining factors of our experience, it becomes really important to be as informed as possible about the things that are affecting the way that we choose.
Yes.
And so any information that can help to expand and contextualize the framework through which we make choices makes us more powerful.
Yeah, it's definitely much more fulfilling to make choices based on information and knowledge than through ignorance. We make choices every day on a daily basis where we don't quite have all the information, and then we suffer the effects, or not suffer, we get to experience the effects of our ignorance simply by not knowing the information. So learning a way that you can acquire information and knowledge that's been hidden throughout the world for millennia, and then learn to try to understand that information from different perspectives to get a more true total perspective and understanding of that, and then apply those understood knowledge pieces of information in a way that supports your goal, as opposed to maybe might contradict or maybe interfere with the goals that you may have. So,
well, if choice is our greatest superpower, then the most powerful thing we can do is learn how to become better choosers.
Yes.
And our choices are informed by both what we know and also by what we don't know.
Yes.
So in order to become a more powerful chooser, you have to find ways to become informed about the things that you didn't know or hadn't seen, because they're still influencing your choice, whether you know it or not. And the thing that I love about your podcast is you are exposing people to all kinds of information systems in the world that are secretly affecting our choice-making powers, whether we are aware of it or not. We're still influenced by it. And you're teaching people how to become more knowledgeable so that they can become the stewards of their greatest superpower.
That really is, kind of harkens back to the Temple of Delphi, just knowing yourself. And part of knowing yourself is learning what influences you. You spoke about influences, and to realize that we're, unbeknownst to most of us, we are like marionettes on strings, and every string is an influence that we don't know that is pulling on us. It's pulling us to move this way, pulling us to think this way, to feel this way. And to recognize that learning about what influences us and then choosing to be influenced by those things is such a clarifying aspect of choosing appropriately, or not appropriately, but choosing more wisely or more sagely, more clearly. And so you had discussed in some of our previous meetings to identify the things that influence me as a person and that influence humanity. And so would you like to talk about some of those?
When I think about this world of invisible influences, as you said, there's so many layers. The idea of free will is a bit of a misnomer. When we hear the popular term free will, it often conjures an image in our mind that's kind of like a blank slate, as if we just could do anything, right? And the truth is, you're not really many times freely or blankly choosing things. You're influenced by a lot, right? Biologically, 40% of your personality is pre-decided based on your genetics. So before you really even are hatched, a lot about how you're going to be, this invisible influence, which you think you're freely choosing, is biologically ingrained into you.
Yes.
Right? So you have biological influences, and then you have personal influences. You have life experience. So you have positive or negative past experiences that may bias how you're perceiving or looking at things in the future. We have family influences, right?
Yeah.
On another level, we have sociological and cultural influences, right? The way an American thinks versus perhaps the way somebody in Afghanistan thinks, right? Two very different cultural upbringings. Then a step above that, we also have ecological influence. Sure. The planet that we live on actually creates responses in us. Mm-hmm. If you aren't sure about that, well, notice how you always get tired when a rainstorm is coming in and you feel like you want to take a nap, right? Or how you have more energy in the summer and less energy perhaps in the winter, wanting to rest more. I love the summertime too. So our ecology actually influences the perception of our experience too. And then on a level even higher above that, we have cosmic influences. We have, the astrology and the planetary motions. The moon every single day is what brings the tides in and out. And then higher than that, we have the quantum level of influence, right? So when we go, gosh, how am I expertly using my free will? The question is, if I want to be a really powerful chooser and a better steward of my willpower, how can I come to understand the biological, personal, sociological, ecological, cosmological, and quantum influences that are shaping the way that I decide to live my life.
That does sound like a long list and somewhat daunting in some aspects. But to your point, when you talked about making free will choices or or choosing more clearly, if we can simply just clean up the influences, if we can start to then say, I now, based on the information that you're receiving in this podcast right now, you can say, okay, I am being influenced on those many levels that we talked about. Now, am I going to choose to believe those that I'm being influenced? Or am I going to ignore that and simply not even try to assimilate the information in any way? And either way is a free will choice, like we talked about. So that's kind of the first benchmark to our own personal evolution. It's like, are we going to be an active participant in our evolution, or are we going to be passive? One's not good or better. They just are. We can simply say, no, I'm going to I'm going to receive everything. I'm not going to actively try to pursue my own evolution, which is totally fine. That is an experience in and of itself. But for those who are feeling that they want to try to take a more active role in their own evolution, then deciding on how we can clean up the ways that we interact with the world to say, okay, I'm surrounded in a sea of information, the Akashic records. And I mean, we just simply have to imagine that we're surrounded by Wi-Fi, radio, television, the other aspects of the electromagnetic spectrum, X-rays, and all these things influence us in a way. And we can either choose to acknowledge and embrace that, and sometimes even appreciate that, and take that information and then move forward into a better understanding. Or we can simply say, I'm not quite ready for that. And either way, it's a choice that, as we'll probably talk about in some future podcasts, that will have consequences or effects from the cause of, I want to be ignorant of this information. I don't want this information. I don't want to hear about all the dirty, nasty things that are going on in the world, or how I'm being influenced. I would just rather be ignorantly blissful. And that's okay. But for myself, and I don't want to speak for you, but I can assume that you're like, no, I'm going to be acutely aware of what influences me, so then I can, like a bonsai tree, manicure it in the way that aligns with the type of reality I like to create. And so to me, that's a very powerful first step to acknowledge, okay, we're being influenced. Oh, that can seem daunting. However, if we say, no, this is great. This gives us an idea to say, okay, well, am I going to participate in that influence, or am I going to just be a puppet on a string?
And that's the decision to become influential, right? So the first level of awareness is to recognize that choice is your greatest superpower. And when you recognize that, immediately the next question becomes, what is influencing my choices, and how can I become a more effective chooser or decision maker? So then it leads us to the second inquiry, which is, what is influencing or leading me? And how do I evaluate the relevance of those ideas, people, or systems that are influencing and leading me? And how do I want to choose to be led?
Yeah. I love that.
So the assessment in one's own consciousness of how they choose to be led is very important. And then it leads us to the third inquiry, which is, in which ways do I want to be influential or leading or co-creative?
I like that.
Right? Now, something I'm curious about, Dan, is why is it not always obvious the ways that we're being influenced or led in the world? Why doesn't everybody seem to know this stuff?
That's an interesting question. And I would say that it could be answered in many different ways. And I have given different answers to that based on how I'm feeling in that moment. If I'm very optimistic and joyful and grateful about life, I see that, well, this is how it's supposed to be. This is There is a statement in Norse culture that says, "Do not put food in the raven's mouth." And you say, well, what does that even mean? Well, if you put food in the raven's mouth, then the raven doesn't learn how to find the food on its own. So, is this information from one perspective, which I try to foster? This is the perspective I usually try to choose: is that everything is happening for our ultimate good. Right? And if things are hidden from us, then it's simply inspiring us to rise above the obstacles that lie in our way. And it's we could be fed this information, yet there requires, as you'd mentioned earlier, a free will, a willpower, if you will, that must be cultivated in order for us to have any type of effective life in this reality. It's a physical existence. Although we're emotional and mental and spiritual beings, yet this physical reality is just that. It's physical, so it's driven by the ability to harness that energy to drive this body. So how can we foster that type of generation of that quality of energy that can move this physical body? Well, you have to inspire it, you have to cultivate it, you have to allow it to reach for the sun, right? Like a plant. If a plant decides through its willpower, I don't want to reach for the sun. It's like, I'm just chilling right here in the soil. I'm just going to be totally fine. Then it's not going to germinate. It's not going to grow. It's not going to evolve. And we are the same as the plants and the animals and the minerals, is that we have to then have this internal fire, this central hidden spark of divinity that's always in us. Yet we have to fan that a little bit through free will choices. We have to say, okay, how can I take a more active role in our evolution? And so for me, I say that it's a structure that I choose to believe in that's simply here to bring out the best in me, to inspire me to reach for the stars and to grow beyond my potential. Although at the same time, I have in times where I am feeling a little sad, like, oh, why is this happening to me? Why is the cabal out to get me? Oh, the financial systems are corrupt, and medicines are corrupt, and the food systems are poisonous, and all these things are easy to fall into that trap as well. And I've spent my time dithering around in those lower realms as well. But I recognize that the more I put my consciousness on that frequency of scarcity and enslavement, then the more I stay trapped in that frequency. So I simply say, okay, that is not the truth. That is one way to look at a half-truth. And I choose to stay focused on the other half-truth, that everything is to inspire us, or to give us an opportunity to exercise our muscles and our divine essence inside, to allow it to grow to its full potential. So that's the way I like to see it. And so in some ways I can see how the influences and all this information, these blueprints, are hidden from us, yes, but hide and seek, baby. It's time to find them Easter eggs, right? It's time to go. It's like, if we made it too easy, and like, it's easy. It's like, why would I do that? So it's like, okay, we have to raise the bar a little bit higher. So in a way, sometimes these leaders of the secret societies are seen as kind of evil henchmen. I can agree with that. But I can also say, well, they're just our kindergarten teachers hoping that we stop eating the paste.
Yeah.
You know?
I often think that the three most important choices are always how we spend our attention, how we spend our time, and how we spend our money.
Yes.
And so when I think about the influences that are guiding the power of my choice, and knowing that they are affecting the way I use my attention, my time, and my money, is I always think, who benefits?
Sure.
Right? So who is the person or the system or the body of ideas that benefits when I use my attention, time, and money in one way?
I like that.
Versus another. And so I try to evaluate systems of knowledge so that I can have information that benefits myself or the values that I would like to see validated in the world through the ways that I use my attention, time, and money. And often I think that the blueprints of how to better understand our universe are hidden, but also not.
Sure.
Or we could say they're perhaps hidden in plain sight, quite often, for those with eyes to see and ears to hear. And on one hand, we could experience them as hidden. Perhaps we could take the point of view for nefarious ways. We could assume that they're hidden because there is another body of power that wants to control our attention, time, and money for their own self-gain. But we could also take the point of view that perhaps they're hidden because through our own growth and self-discovery, we are meant to find them and know them as we are ready, and that they will be revealed and become obvious to us as we become more ready and skilled and sharpened and ready to constantly refine the ways that we use our attention, time, and money.
I like that. That's the, in the Kabbalion, it says, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And I love that, because it's absolutely true, is that we can understand things only at the level of our frequency. And it's up to us to raise that frequency. And so as we learn to cultivate our attention, as we learn to be more diligent with our time and the way that we spend the other aspect of our energy, which is money, then teachers will arise that show, he's a good steward of his attention. Now he's ready, because he doesn't have the he or she doesn't have the prerequisite attention skills to understand this length and breadth of information that's very profound, or they haven't honed their time management skills. And so they recognize, or say, the creation of the Philosopher's Stone, that's a year-long project. And so you can't just teach anybody to do that. You have to kind of learn through the lower realms that this is a big commitment, both of mental energy and time and resources. And so I believe that there are secrets of the universe and or influences that can allow us to see beyond ourselves, but they do require a price of attention. And if we're not able to harness enough attention to pay the debt or to pay the cost of that information, then that information will be withheld from us because we're not able to pay the fee and same thing with time and or money. Sometimes there are experiences that do in this physical realm cost money. And, so if I want to have the experience of being on a super yacht, then I have to kind of collect those fiat ducats to just to be able to give some stacks to somebody to drive to have that experience there. And so, in a way, it's you got to pay to play, but the currency that you use is different based on the experience that you're going to have.
So Dan, I'm curious, what are the systems of information that have most refined your consciousness, that you found most beneficial in guiding you?
I would probably say Hermeticism and Rosicrucianism, and I am deeply enamored with any of the Renaissance era alchemical texts, which are basically just kind of an offshoot of Hermeticism. And anything that, in my mind, at least being a physician and being trained as a physician to learn how to process information at school, I have a certain way of thinking about things. And so to have a set of rules or systems that you can kind of follow and kind of check off seem to resonate with me very well. And so to say, okay, wow, now there's a list of rules that I can simply learn to, not rules, but principles, laws that I can simply learn to integrate and understand that can help improve the way that I function in my reality. And that was like a game changer for me, because at times it was like, wow, I don't know how I can, how I can manifest my dreams, or I don't know how I can achieve some of these results. But some of these ancient philosophies and or technologies or systems, it becomes much easier to do that. And so now I feel, instead of jaded or disempowered, I feel empowered and I feel energized. It's amazing how, and there are many systems out there. These are the ones that just happen to resonate with me. And for a while, that was more centered on the experience of, I was baptized Catholic, not necessarily a practicing Catholic, but I did believe in Jesus and the Trinity and things of that nature. And to then have a different perspective of that, and then to learn about how the Bible and the system of the zodiac, that really just kind of blew my mind. And so that's where I really kind of fell under your spell of influence to say, wow, you know so much about this information that I've been craving, that seems to be connecting the dots in many of the areas where I just had blind spots and or I seem to be ignorant in those areas. Because anytime you'd ask about astrology or the zodiac, it's like, oh, that's a horoscope, that's witchcraft, or that's just nonsense, exoteric information. And so, for a while, I believed that. But yet, when I look at it from a deeper meaning, I'd say, wow, this is a profound blueprint for the evolution of my own personal life and soul. And I get to experience it every year. I get to experience 12 different aspects of myself and get to refine those and really integrate those. And so Hermeticism, the zodiac, both Eastern and Western zodiac. And so those have been very influential of me as late. So, and you're an expert on these things. And so Is there something that you'd like the audience to know about, say, the Zodiac, or maybe even a conversation or a question you'd like to maybe pose back to me that could get this party started? Because again, I'm super jazzed about discussing the Zodiac and its influences and what it even means, and so I will defer to the master.
This video is sponsored by Symbolic, where I am the CEO and cosmic coach, Maurielle. If you're trying to find your place in life and know what's coming up next for you, then I'd love to see you in my office or online. What we do is we look at a map of who you were born to be so that we can create a strategic plan of a lifestyle and a business for you to do precisely what you were born to do based on the mathematics of your birthday.